well as you and Raven Effect doing the damn thing. So I figured it's only fitting that I come back after a long hiatus and a long absence, because a lot of stuff is going on in the world of professional wrestling, gentlemen. And let's start it off hot with some great topics here on the Heelcast. We got TK versus Big Swole. No, it is not a professional wrestling match. It is a social media war. Fightful, that goddamn Sean Ross Sapp, that goddamn Tony Khan responded to it. A lot has really been going on with that particular situation. Before I give my hot take on it, I'm going to let you start off with this, Hurls. Hurls, what do you think about this? Social media, it's Tony Khan, it's Big Swole. Big Swole had stuff to say, not just in this article, but she said some stuff on her podcast. What do you think about this whole situation that we have going down?
Well, okay, Tony, you got to chill it a little bit. I understand what Swole said may have been not exactly 100% truthful, okay? So you got to tone it down. But, Tony, you said that Big Swole was improving in an interview not that long ago. Don't contradict yourself, my friend. And B, just don't even respond. This is a no-win situation for you. So just let that thing go. Put that title on Jade Cargill, because that was the plan anyway. It's going to make Big Swole look like a big idiot after you do it. So just let that go, man. Once you responded and you had to do the dig at Big Swole, that's when you lost it. So I hate to see this. But Tony has been responding to basically everything that has been thrown at him. Even an article from Fox News about the declining, well, I don't even know what it was really about, but it was about ratings, I believe. Yes. So Tony, just let that thing slide. Let Big Swole be upset. Let her say what she's got to say. The people will digest it how they're going to digest it. Just show them what you're all about. You don't need to go on Twitter and say it.
AEW Dude, your take on the TK versus Big Swole matter, then I will give my sentiments. What are you thinking, AEW Dude?
And I don't know where to start or where to end. So, I mean, ultimately, Big Swole said something that she probably shouldn't have said and probably isn't accurate. And what Tony Khan said was probably correct, at least from, my perspective. But what an asshole. You can be right sometimes and just be so damn wrong. Look, folks, here's the thing. And this is what you got to remember and what people react and respond to. Big Swole is a struggling, wrestler, and I believe she's married to Cedric Alexander. I got that right, correct?
Yes,
Who
sir.
wrestles for WWE, and he's probably not making a ton, but he's featured from time to time. But these are still struggling wrestlers, at least her anyway. And so, she's not going to take it well when you cut her. So she's going to say something, and you have to understand that she's struggling. That's what people do when they're struggling. And I don't want to say it's right what she said, but you have to understand it sometimes. And then Tony Khan, your dad's worth $6 billion. Is that right, Larkin? He's $6 billion, right?
Well, he's a $6 billion man, yes.
A $6 billion man. $6 billion. You don't know what it's like to struggle. And you're a billionaire. And you're supposed to be bigger than Big Swole. Okay? So act it. Act your age. Show the class that you should have, being an heir to, a multi-billion-dollar empire. You want a wrestling company, you say, Dad, I want a wrestling company, and you get it. And you've done a great job with it, right? But just shut up. And that ultimately, I think, is how I feel about it. It's like, two wrongs don't make a right. As far as the backlash that came from it, on one hand, I'm not sure I believe it's warranted, because I actually do think that what he said is pretty darn accurate. But it's still deserved, because the idiot never should have run his mouth. So I kind of don't feel bad for him. And then I watched Dutch Mantel's podcast, and he's got an African-American co-host who really went off about how he thinks that, African-Americans should be featured more on the show. And it was interesting listening to his perspective because, obviously we want to see people that are like us. That's how you connect with characters, whether it's in wrestling or something completely, different genre. And so I can understand where he wants to connect with people, and seeing people like you is what you do. It doesn't make the guy a racist either, because he'd like to see more blacks featured, just like it wouldn't make me a racist because I happen to like Chris Jericho or something like that either. It's human nature. And he made some really good, interesting points about it. And finally, they asked Dutch his opinion, and Dutch is a pretty straightforward guy, and Dutch is like, you got to earn your spot, and it's all about being over. And I think that makes a lot of sense too. So I think what they need to do is that they need to help some of these folks get over to begin with. But right now, when you look at that roster and you look at least from my perspective, who I think has the ability to go over, I think Jade Cargill is going to be a massive, massive star if Tony Khan doesn't screw it up. I'm not sure they have anybody else that's got that star power of color on their roster, if you really want my opinion. We'll get into to Jade, later, I'm sure, but I think that she should probably not have won that match, just because I don't think she's ready for it, and I don't want to see her exposed. The folks on the Heelcast know I am definitely the Jade Cargill fan on the team, but part of being a fan of somebody is allowing them to grow naturally, so they have a long-term, the longevity of a career, and I'm a little bit concerned about where she is right now. And getting exposed. But if they series her right, they're going to have a massive star on their hands. I'm completely convinced of that. So that's kind of my long-winded answer there, Larkin.
All good. Mine was very simple. And I mean, here's the thing when it comes to Tony Khan, and I'm not going to call him TK because I think that's absolutely asinine. It reminds me back in the day when they used to call Eric Bischoff Easy E, and I'm like, no, the man's name is Tony Khan. So one of the things that always gets me is, everything in life is subjective, right? So if anybody would say anything about AEW that was bad, he would get all defensive. And he's done this before, not just with, now this is with talent, but with fans. And it's like, Tony, it's not everybody's going to like what you do. Don't have to get all defensive. Everything's subjective. It's like, calm down. He takes to Twitter a lot with this, and this is what really annoys me, because you don't see Vince McMahon and stuff doing this. The man needs a PR team, for God's sake. So when Tony Khan acted like the spoiled kid, it's like, Tony, all right, if you feel this way, you could have just spoke to her privately, or maybe I don't agree with this, but this is something that we're going to talk about. But he could have handled it something differently. It could have been in private, didn't have to be in social media, but it was. And I think for what Ariel Monroe, who is Big Swole, and for me, well, first and foremost, I'm sure with what he spoke about her wrestling ability, not needed, but still, I think a lot of people echoed those sentiments. I mean, for God's sake, I hated the Britt Baker feud and the tooth and nail match, which I try to wipe from my memory. But I mean, I first saw Ariel Monroe in the Mae Young Classic, right? And then here she is over here in AEW. Her husband, Cedric Alexander, was featured in a prominent position with the Hurt Business. Now he's just kind of floating around in the picture. With what's going on there, I think Big Swole could have. What she said, she had a lot of valid points, but at the same time, it's all matters that really could have been discussed in private and not just boom. But at the same time, I mean, if someone's going to make a comment at you, Tony, just learn it to go one ear and out the other, and it could have been handled perfectly. And that be my long-winded answer. Tony, shut the fuck up, stay off of social media, and lay off the White Claws.
And quit acting like a spoiled son of a billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Quit acting like a spoiled son of a billionaire, because that's what it is. It's what it is. It's spoiled brat syndrome. I just made up something there. It's the SBS, the spoiled brat syndrome. But no, and I also look at it from a stance too as well. A lot of people really chimed in, some to defend Tony, like Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose.